in his bicep, he had it right on his forearm. And he looked at me and he said, "You out of breath?" And I said, "No." But when I said no, it came out, "No." I had no voice. And I was trying to play it off, but I knew something was really wrong with my throat. And as the day goes on, my neck is swelling on the inside. I could feel it. And I could still moderately talk, and I could still sing in lower tones, but I had no upper register at all. So I go ahead and play the show, and I avoided any kind of high choruses. I kind of just sang the lower parts of every song and got through it. And I went to sleep that night. The bus fires up. We roll to Chicago, Illinois. I wake up in Chicago. Normal day, parked outside of the venue, about 7 a.m., open my eyes, and I talk, and nothing comes out. I have zero voice, nothing. A little bit of gravel, a little bit of whisper, but nothing audible, no words are capable of coming out of my mouth. And I've never experienced losing a voice before. I've never even had laryngitis, so I'm freaking out. I'm like Superman with kryptonite all over him. I can't fly, I have no power. The only thing I have on tour is my voice, and it's gone. I text my tour manager, Chris. I said, "Hey, we have a big problem. I don't have a voice." And he doesn't understand. Nobody could really understand that there's going to be no show tonight in Chicago. We've never played Chicago yet, and we're going to have to cancel. And they think, you have some coffee, relax. We have, 8 hours before we need to play a show. It'll be back. And I'm thinking, somebody call a doctor. I can't talk. Made an appointment with a ear, nose, and throat doctor in Chicago. She sticks this camera down the back of my throat to check out my vocal cords. Come to find out, I have a burst blood vessel on my vocal cord. This happened during the choking. So there's absolutely nothing I could do about it besides rest. And that's really tough on me because I'm the kind of guy that, give me some kind of rehab program, give me some kind of stretching exercise, give me a new diet plan, and let me fix this. So hearing that there's absolutely nothing I could do but rest is the worst news for me. Because A, we need to call the venue and cancel the show tonight in Chicago with people that I've never even met before. And then we need to cancel tomorrow in Louisville. We need to cancel the next day in Grand Rapids, Michigan, et cetera, et cetera. There's 2 weeks of tours, and we're supposed to play every day. I have to go back to Texas and rest. This is the lowest moment of my career at the time. Keep in mind, I've never played any of these cities at the time. So these aren't fans that are, that we've grown the market for years and years, and they love me and they're used to me. These are brand new fans that don't know anything about me. They're taking a chance by buying a ticket. A lot of these shows were either sold out or almost sold out. And so we got to refund all these tickets. And I have to rebuild trust with these people. This is driving me crazy. It's really hard on me. I needed to wait about 6 weeks for the vocal cords to completely heal. I took a chance. I wanted it to be well in 6 days. That's me, and I was being realistic too. I was doing a lot of research. I revisited a doctor back in Texas, and I needed to be back up and running in 6 days because I needed to play a show in Texas. So after a few days, I started doing these vocal exercises. I learned a lot about warming up the vocals. I did play that show in Texas, just sang kind of lower register stuff. I never pushed anything. I limited my talking during the day. And you know what? What started as the lowest moment of my musical career ended up being something that I learned a lot from. I still remember it like it was yesterday. I still do everything I can to avoid injuries and not having my voice warmed up. And then you ask, well, what happened to Blake? Blake is actually still with me, and I don't blame him at all because I went and got tape, and I was going to tape him up and hang him up in the trailer. I mean, people are like, how did you let an employee of yours do that to you? I'm a brother. I have 2 brothers. I definitely egged him on. And so it's my fault. I take the blame for it. I learned a lot from it. But unfortunately, that wasn't the worst injury yet, and that wasn't the last time I had to cancel shows. I'll tell you about that.
I am the midnight, I'm the lonely heart, home of the surging souls. I am the whiskey sip you drink instead of going home. I'm when the lovers rock, I'm when the dreamers pray. I am a little bit of hope when you need another day. Whoa, tonight it's a matter of time. I am the midnight.
It's been a interesting day in Missouri so far. We had a production meeting with the band and crew, and something that never happened. My 7-year veteran monitor engineer, Frank, resigned today. I know, it's crazy. I'm still kind of soaking it in, but the road, being on tour, I don't want to compare it to deployed soldiers because we're much less noble of a cause than that. But essentially, we're gone so much from a regular life that sometimes you lose who you are. And Frank kind of poured out his heart. He stood up and he has, I love Frank. I've known him for a long time. I consider him a huge friend. And he has a lot of character to be able to stand up in front of all of us and say, guys, this job isn't for me anymore. I need to be home. I need to find myself. I need to find what makes me happy again. Because the road, man, it's a bitch. The monotony could kill you if you're not careful. It's evil sorcery. We're very, very blessed to do what we do. But if you get sucked into that monotony, it's quicksand. To put it in perspective right now, recording this podcast is mid-August. The buses have not been home since March. That's 6 months gone. And I told Frank I care more about him being happy than I care about him being my monitor engineer. And I really, really want him to be my monitor engineer, if that makes sense. Anyway. That's our life. And we'll move on, and Frank will move on, and we will remain friends. Frank has been there for me a lot in every show. And he was a part of this next story, actually. He was a part of Waco, Texas, 2015. And I completely dislocated my shoulder on stage. So let me set the stage. It's the Heart of Texas Fair, Waco, Texas, and it's the very end of the show, exactly like the scenario of the forehead stitches in College Station. I'm out slapping hands and high-fiving, fist-bumping, doing some autographs to the front row. There's a group of really crazy fans over to me on my stage left, and I'm trying to get to them, and this guy has this hat that he wants me to autograph. He's holding a Sharpie pen and a hat. And I remember this guy because I've been watching him for an hour and a half. He's a great fan. I need to get to him. He's just a little bit out of arm's reach. And so I step out onto this speaker, and I reach for him. And as I'm reaching, the speaker starts wobbling. And I think, uh-oh, this is going to tumble. And I'm going to drop this whole speaker into the crowd, and I'm going with it. So instinctively, I reach back with my left hand and I grab the stage truss. And the speaker goes forward. I grip the stage truss to support myself. And I stopped myself, but it ripped my shoulder out of socket. And when you dislocate your shoulder and the entire ball comes out of the socket, and it's just this horrible deformity on your shoulder. And it hurts like hell. I don't think anybody noticed. I don't think the crowd noticed at all. And I turned to walk off the stage, and there's Chris Lee, my tour manager, and he's like, hey, great show. He has no idea. And I go, dude, my shoulder. And he looks over, and he goes, whoa. I go, you got to help me pop it back in. So he starts, he positions himself underneath my arm, and he's jacking it up, trying to lock that shoulder back in with no luck. So we go all the way to the bus. It's hurting like hell. So I popped some ibuprofen and started taking some whiskey shots one by one. Anything to numb this pain. Chris, meanwhile, runs outside. There's always EMTs at our show, so he goes and he finds these EMTs, and he goes, hey, guys, come here quick. We need to pop his shoulder back in socket. Because I know now the longer your shoulder stays out of socket, the longer recovery you're going to have. So you want to get it in quick. So he goes to the EMTs, and they're like, hey, he has to come to the ambulance, and we could fix it. And so Chris runs back on, you need to go to the ambulance to fix it. And I said, hell no, I'm not getting on that ambulance. What's that, like $3,500? No way. I said, you got to tell him to come up here. He goes back down. Granger can't come. And they say, I'm sorry, legally. And I totally get it. If they messed something up even worse, then I could sue them. And, that's the world we live in. So it's not their fault. I get it. And so here I am on the bus, and I still have this dislocated shoulder. Meanwhile, the whole band is with me, and we're running out of whiskey. Now, I just went and referenced this because we have a little show that we make on the road called Yee Yee TV. And this is one of the episodes. We got all this on tape. This is all filmed. So I just went and watched it, and it's gross, seeing that lumpy shoulder. So what happened was my drummer's mother's boyfriend. You following me? He's a fireman, and he comes on the bus, and he goes, man, I know exactly how to do this. So he kind of positions himself, puts his arm under mine, and starts putting pressure upward. It doesn't work. He says, man, I know this is how to do it. I've done it before. Meanwhile, I take another shot of whiskey. Does it one more time, and then pop. There it goes. Back into the socket. It's funny now, but, maybe the whiskey is what loosened up the ligaments and finally made it happen. But that was a crazy day. No ambulance ride, no hospital. And guess what? I played the next day, so I did not have to cancel a single show. But that was coming. That's actually this next story. This next story is the worst injury I've ever had on stage. I did have to cancel shows. It's also super embarrassing, but here we go. The sun has gone down in Missouri on kind of a strange day. It's not awkward with Frank. I've talked to him many times. This is the kind of guy that he is. He's going to work with us until we find a new guy. He's even going to train the new guy. So he's a good dude. Frank was not at the show where this next injury happened. And if he was, he probably would have stopped it. Actually, I guarantee you he would have prevented it. The reason he wasn't there, it was because it was an acoustic show in New Jersey. So it was me, Dusty, Todd, Chris, and a couple people from the record label, Brittany and John Loba. So I'd like to defend us a little bit by saying that we don't set the stage on these kind of shows. We leave it to the local crew. So they put out the mic stands, the microphones, cables, monitors, all that kind of stuff. So on this particular show, the monitors, the wedges, were up at the very front of the stage, right on the edge. Now, we normally like to have those back a couple feet to get some cushion. Just so you know, that's how the stage is set. So here we are, playing the show, sold-out crowd, amazing crowd in New Jersey. On my left is Dusty playing a small drum kit. On my right, Todd playing acoustic guitar. Here I am in the middle, and guess what I'm singing? An Earl Dibbles song, which seems to be the curse of these kind of injuries. Now, what happens next is something I'll remember for a long, long time.
Country music singer Granger Smith powered through a performance after falling from stage in New Jersey Friday, but was later hospitalized. A spokeswoman for Smith declared in a statement Smith shared on Twitter that he had fallen while performing at the Starland Ballroom in Sayreville on Friday night. The country star said he took a pretty hard spill, but hopes to be out of the hospital soon to head home to his family in Texas. Shows this weekend in North Carolina and Texas were canceled.
There's a lot of videos on YouTube because a lot of people have their phones up, so I found one.